Okay, I'm in my spot. I've already finished this cup of coffee. There will be more cups to follow. Um, this spot's been super important for me this week. It's been an emotional week. We're all kind of consumed with the Derek Chauvin trial. Um, I didn't realize how emotional I would get when they were reading um, the verdicts. Um, and I've talked with some friends of mine, and I recognize that I can't understand what that must feel like if you've either been a victim of or seen a lot of injustice in your life. I don't have a frame of reference, um, but I want to feel empathy for people who are trying to frame what happened, and this will lead into the Thursday thought. I keep seeing these two words thrown up against each other, and then I'm going to get political. I'm going to give you a heads up, but hopefully it won't be partisan. It'll just be kind of unpacking a little bit of what that might look like. I keep seeing the word accountability, like Derek Chauvin was held accountable for something that was very obvious that he did, but on the other hand, there's still not justice. And I get that. We kind of throw a lot of words into one big suitcase, and then we can't figure out what different words mean because we're not really good at separating out the specificity of each one of the words. So I was really intrigued with being held accountable, but there still being no justice. Because in the political part of this, I understand on the spectrum from the left, from very progressive to the right to very conservative, there are a lot of issues that we are very polarized on. Abortion, homosexuality, LGBTQ rights, immigration, economic policy, housing, minimum wage. I mean, across the board, there's a lot of polarization. But when you kind of look at all of the issues, there seems to be this kind of fundamental underlying premise that the people on the left and the people on the right hold about how society works that really creates the fuel and the driving force behind this separation. And that's an understanding of personal accountability. And there's a lot of blurred lines there. Um, People on the left, and these will be kind of extremes, and I know that we're all somewhere on the continuum. People on the left tend to lean more toward an understanding is that there are systems and structures in place um, that affect personal behavior. If you are born in a certain environment, if you grow up in a certain area in the country or a certain town, um, those will greatly affect how you form as a person and the thoughts you have and the way that you carry yourself. And so there's a lot of conversation for people on the left with six systems and structures. We've got to fix systems and structures. And then people on the right, because there is this passion for personal responsibility and freedom and choices, that there is a belief that, yes, some people grow up in less than desirable environments, some people have some things stacked against them, but because our ability for having control over our own life, having agency, that no matter what you grow up in, you have the inner ability to choose your own path, despite whatever circumstances that you grew up in. And the lines are kind of blurred with that. No one's, all one or all the other. And we use the language kind of loosely, that there'll be people on the left who will say, we're glad that Derek Chauvin was finally held accountable. There's a personal choice, a personal responsibility. And people on the right will go into impoverished areas to try to improve their situation because they recognize that circumstances do matter. So I understand that the lines are really blurred, but when it comes down to our understanding of things like accountability and justice, we have a tendency to lean either toward their systems and structures or there's personal freedom. And we create a dividing line and it say it's either one or the other. Which made me think about one of my favorite scriptures in the New Testament. And it's when Jesus starts his ministry. It's kind of like his announcement for candidacy speech, if you were thinking about him running for office, where he's handed the scrolls at the synagogue, and he's asked to read out of a certain passage. And so the passage is found in Luke 4, but he's reading from Isaiah. And I meant to look up the Isaiah part. I'm going to read the Luke 4 part and hopefully find the Isaiah, because it's Isaiah 61. Jesus says this: "The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to do these things." This is what my ministry is going to be about: to preach good news to the poor, to recognize that there is a group of people who are disenfranchised from everyone else. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. Now, we never have any stories of Jesus actually going into a prison or a jail and freeing people. So we recognize that there's some symbolism in there. And we can be all over the place as far as what that would be, as far as personal prisons or prisons of society. He did address religious leaders a lot in the prisons that they developed. Recovery of sight for the blind. He talks about spiritual blindness a lot. To release the oppressed and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Now, what's interesting is what he quoted was from Isaiah 61, and he specifically left something out, which is another whole conversation. He left out, "in the day of the vengeance of our God." So in Jesus quoting scripture, he specifically left out an understanding of condemnation and judgment. All of that to say, what I picked from that passage is he recognizes that there are some things that people are being held in bondage to that they are unable to get out from on their own. And not only are they blind to them, but we're probably blind to them too. We see symptoms, we see behaviors, but a lot of times we can't see what's holding people prisoners. We can't see what's holding them captive because we have spiritual blindness. When Jesus would talk about people who were making poor choices and were doing things they weren't supposed to be doing, it said he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. That they didn't have anyone that was talking to them saying, hey, this is the way life was supposed to be. This is what we're supposed to be about. And so when I think about the Derek Chauvin trial, when I think about accountability, that we hold people to their actions, that there is an emphasis on personal responsibility. We've got to do that. But there is this bigger picture that we need to be aware of, and that is the understanding that there are chains that we're all in bondage to, that we are all captives, we are all prisoners, and we have spiritual blindness and we can't see those things. And that's why this is important. That's why we do this together. That's why we gather together in communities like church and help each other to see things that we can't normally see. And that's one of the things that I really love about New Community Church is being a church that's diverse. We hear a broad range of voices about different things. And so I have my perspective. I think I'm right. But there are other people who have different perspectives. And I need to hear those. I need to hear people who think differently than me because it gives me a bigger picture. I have spiritual blindness. There are things that I am captive to and that I am prisoner to also. So, interesting look into the events of this week, kind of a little bit of preview for Sunday as we finish up our tabling series. What does it mean to be in relationship with other people and to grow our ability to see things that we can't see on our own because we have people who are in our lives that help us see that. So, take and do whatever you want to with that. I know this is a little long. We hope to see you Sunday. Our kids are back in full swing. Our teenagers, our students are meeting also. We're seeing more and more people. We're still doing masks for now, but we're having conversations about what it would look like to move out of that. We want to see vaccine numbers go up, and we want to see new cases and deaths drop, and then we'll have a conversation about that. So that's it. I've got to go get more coffee because I'm empty. Have a great week. Man, we'd love to see you Sunday, either in person or virtually. We're going to talk a little bit about this. And so we'll see you then. Take care.